Hello, I'm Brian Hubbard.
Hi, and I'm Lynne McTaggart.
And we are What Doctors Don't Tell You. And welcome to our latest podcast or vlog if you're watching it on YouTube. And What Doctors Don't Tell You, we're doing this since 1989 in some form or another, and more recently as a magazine. Here's a recent issue I'm holding up for the vlog viewers. And it's a long time to be researching medicine. So we have some interesting things to say about the news that's going the rounds at the moment. So without further ado, let's have a look at some recent health news. And the first item is fake news. That's the word of the day, isn't it? Fake news. And the idea behind it, why it's got so much traction, is that it's almost like an implicit understanding that those in power and authority have stuff they don't want us to know about. And we know that's a fact. And so I think that's why the idea's got traction. And of course, medicine has more than its fair share of fake news, which is one of the reasons why we're around and we tell you what doctors don't tell you.
Well, and I think what's so outrageous about fake news is it's been lobbed, that term has been lobbed at, just newspapers, who are trying to actually do investigative reporting. But underneath all of that, there is a lot of dirty stuff going on in medicine, as Brian says, and it's all about the regulatory agencies basically putting out the news they want us to hear. And that's the real shocking element, because these are the people, the very people like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, who are supposed to safeguard the public health.
Well, yeah, I mean, the news is really to do with another agency, the FDA, the drug regulator in the States, where it's been discovered that they've been busy doing deals with journalists and saying, well, look, I'll tell you what, we'll give you the news early, so you scoop everybody else, but we'll control the news agenda. We'll tell you who it is you can speak to about this story and who you can't, and you must stick to that. So they are controlling the news agenda. A phrase I've not actually come across before, but they call it a close hold embargo, and a close hold obviously because they're holding the journalists extremely close and determining how the news is reported. And and this is no wonder that you find all the newspapers falling into line, and not just the newspapers. It's true for the major TV outlets, the network, the cable channels, and all the rest of it.
Well, and I think what we're always shocked about, aren't we, Brian, is that when we find a big exclusive about something, there's something that gets unearthed, some investigative bit of information. None of the majors carry the story, and now we know why. They're being fed a line by the FDA. What makes me so sad about this, close hold embargo idea is that I can remember back 30-something years ago as a young journalist when the heroes were the Food and Drug Administration. They were rooting out the bad guys. They were rooting out dirty evidence and manipulated evidence by the pharmaceutical companies. Now they are the pharmaceutical companies, essentially. Most of the people who are populating the FDA are ex-pharmaceutical employees. And so small wonder that we've got a situation where the news that you're hearing on medicine in the main, if it's from the major papers, is controlled.
And it's not just the agencies that are involved. The other piece of fake news we discovered this week is the older story about Coca-Cola. Now, this goes back a little bit, but what's interesting and what's new about it is that a Freedom of Information request has uncovered really all the details of how Coca-Cola was controlling the news agenda. And this is really going back a couple of years when, really for the first time, sugar was being fingered as the true culprit for diabetes, heart disease, and of course obesity. And of course that directly impacts on Coca-Cola and its products. And so they decided to do something about it by creating, again, their own news agenda. And they set up a thing called the Global Energy Balance Network, and they poured millions of dollars at this, in which they recruited leading academics. They also recruited the University of Colorado School of Medicine. And in the UK, they recruited Sense About Science, which is run by Simon Singh. And the idea was that these great and good scientists and free-thinking people would spread the Coca-Cola agenda, that in fact obesity and all these things had nothing at all to do with sugar, but had everything to do with lack of exercise in what Coca-Cola framed as energy balance, or energy misbalance, I suppose. And so they all dutifully fell into line, took their money, and started to spread the word.
And, you know, this is particularly ironic for us at What Doctors Don't Tell You, because when we first turned into a magazine in 2012 from a newsletter, which we'd been for 20-something years, we were attacked by numerous organizations, one of which was Sense About Science, really trying to debunk us, get us banned, all sorts of things like that, and try to claim that we were the fake news. And this is really ironic when you see that some of what they are, some of their funding is coming essentially from lobbying groups. So you want to, you know, really ask the question then, how many other organizations are essentially just patsies of the lobbying organizations and big business, big pharmaceutical companies and big food like this?
Well, of course, the denouement was that the network that was created, the GEBN as it was called, which was the Global Energy Balance Network, was eventually closed down a couple of years back now. And to their credit, the University of Colorado did hand back the $1 million that they had been handled, although we don't know if Mr. Singh handed back his $25,000. Perhaps
at least Sense About Science in any case.
Yeah. So we don't know, but there you are. That's fake news for you guys. It's stuff you've got to be careful about what you're reading, because there's likely to be an agenda there. And it's also just worth adding that something else we did point out, you know, again many times, that around about 70% of medical research that gets published in the most prestigious journals is in fact fakery. It's been spun, and so. Goodness me, thank goodness for What Doctors Don't Tell You.
And, you know, also these public health authorities like the Centers for Disease Control, we know have sat on really important and, you know, refused to publish and even doctored really important data about vaccines, particularly the MMR. So when you see things like that, as you say, we were once called a voice in the silence, and it's becoming more silent out there.